Hey everybody, this is Walter with Access Electric, and I'm here with Linda from ALR again, and today she's going to show us how to set up the Vive system. In the last episode we talked about the uses for the Vive system, but today we actually get to set it up and see how it works,
That's
right?
the fun part,
Cool.
playing with the products a little bit. So first we're going to talk about just using this product as a standalone product, and I'm going to need you to be my Vanna White here. Okay, so yeah, there you go, very nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is press and hold this button here on the dimmer.
Okay.
And what we're going to see is these little LED indicators are going to blink rapidly. That means it's gone into programming mode. Then I'm going to let go of that. You're going to press and hold the off button. And what we want to see, if it's working properly, is that the light here will do a slow flash 3 times to indicate that we do have that eHarmony match that we talked about before.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is what we're going for, and you know, Murphy's Law is that sometimes you're doing something like this and it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, but this is a very reliable product and it does work, I promise. So I'm going to press and hold and put it in programming mode, and I see my little LED indicators blinking. So now you're going to press and hold there, and you see that we have this light is flickering, not flickering, but slow dim 3 times, and it's saying, okay, now we've been associated. So you can let go of that. Now I'm going to turn this off, and you're going to turn it on using that Pico remote control.
Nice.
There we go, Lutron Magic.
Lutron Magic.
So this Pico is going to turn the light on and off, and it's going to dim it up and down.
Okay. Want to dim?
So what are we on? We're full on right there, and you can watch and see that as I'm pushing the dimmer, that light is dimming down, and then I can turn it off.
Great.
So that is as complicated as the programming gets for using this product in a standalone manner. So pretty simple. I would do the same thing with my occupancy sensor. I would put my dimmer into programming mode. I would press and hold the button on the occupancy sensor, and then my lights will do the same thing, flash up and down. Now I'm associated with this device as well. And then on the back of the occupancy sensor, you can set, it's kind of a little bit difficult to see, but you can set your sensitivity levels and your timeout levels for that.
Okay.
So that's how you do standalone programming. And if we were to just use all of these products in standalone, we would continue to associate products until it's all, you know, everything's hooked up the way it's supposed to be. But the really fun part is putting in a Vive hub. So you're going to put your hub in, all of your devices are going to be wired, you're going to have your occupancy sensors, your daylight sensors, your Pico remotes ready to go. And instead of now doing that physical press and hold in the space, we are going to program the hub.
Okay.
So when you first start, you have to set a secure Wi-Fi for the hub. So you're going to go to your Wi-Fi settings on your device, and if you can see on my phone, there is a Vive with a bunch of numbers after that.
Right.
And so I'm going to select that. It's now created, it's an unsecured network that's out there, but it's not on your system, it's just a Wi-Fi signal.
It's on standalone Wi-Fi
Correct.
signal.
Yeah. So now I'm going to go into my Vive hub, and my hub, I have a bunch of different kind of fake job names because I use it to do demonstrations. But a contractor would have all of their jobs listed in there. So if you ever had to go back on a job to add some fixtures or change some programming, you would have all that already within your app. But for our purposes, I'm going to hit the plus button because we're going to create a new project.
Okay.
So the first thing is we're going to give our project a name. And so we'll call this Access Demo. And hit done. And say next. Now it's going to ask us some things about this project. So we want to select a building type, and you can see that there are different options of what to pick, and there's always that little other category if you need it. So let's call this a commercial office. It's in the United States. We're going to pick the state of California, and we're going to enter our location here. This is important because there, with the astronomical time clock function of the hub, it needs to know exactly where you're located. So if you say that you want lighting to come on the outside of your building at sunset, it's going to need to know where you're located.
Right.
You don't want it
Knows
to
what
think
time
that
zone
you're
we're in.
right.
Okay, great.
Okay, so then I'm going to hit next. And then here's where you as a contractor would enter your customer's information. So this is going to be the name of the person who's going to own this system after you walk off the job.
Okay.
So right now we don't need to enter this info, so we're just going to say skip this step. But as a contractor, when you're setting up a system like this, you would come back and enter that information, because once you have finished with your entire job and all of your programming, and you've passed inspection, you've handed over the keys, so to speak, whoever that is going to own this system is going to get a welcome email from Lutron. It's going to tell them a little bit about their Vive system and how to use it. It's going to inform them that their extended warranty has gone into effect. And what you don't want as a contractor is callbacks, right?
Right.
So this whole system is designed to minimize callbacks because it puts the power in the hands of the end user. It's not some complicated programming that you have to keep calling somebody out for. So now we see our job in there, and it's telling us it's new, so that's helpful. So I'm going to select that, and now I'm going to add a hub. So when I do that, it says this Vive hub is flashing so that you can identify it. Is that the hub you would like to add? So yes, I want to add this hub. I'm going to select that. Now it says name your Vive hub.
And you get rid of all the numbers?
You get rid of all the numbers, and you name it something that's going to make sense. So if it's, First National Bank downtown, you can put that in, or it could be the hub for the first floor, or the hub for the second floor. Something to note is that one hub, covers about 10,000 square feet.
Okay.
So for each 10,000 square feet, you would need to add another hub. So, so we're going to call this Access because it just keeps it easy, and that we're just demoing. So we're going to say next, and now we want to set a password. So you want to make a password here, or how about this? We're going to do Lutron. We're going to do hashtag 1234. Okay, it's medium strength, but it'll let us slide with that.
Now
so.
you all know what the password is now too.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the passwords match. Good. That means I didn't fat finger anything, and I'm going to hit done. And we're going to wait for the next instruction.
So it just kind of walks you through.
It walks you through. It's pretty much programming for dummies.
Okay.
So now we see, you see a couple things on here. Hand off this project to my customer. That's what you would do as a contractor once you're completely done with it. You're going to hit that and follow those instructions. But we're still in the programming mode.
Right.
So you can see now we have a hub, and it's named Access. At this point, I could add more hubs if I wanted to. But I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Now it wants me to go back into my settings so that I can reconnect to the hub, because we've renamed it now,
Right.
and we've created a password.
Okay.
So this is where the security of this comes in. You don't have a lighting system that's open to the whole world. Employees getting on it, goofing around and messing with each other. Only the people who have the password are going to be able to access this.
So in other words, make it a relatively secure password.
Yes.
So people aren't playing around and guess your password and mess with your lighting system.
Correct. And now if I remember what we just set it at, I put in the password, I said join,
connected.
And now I'm connected. So now I'm going to go back to my app. It takes me now into the meat of the app. So the very first time you use it, it's going to give you little hints and tips as you go along. So there's an intro to begin with, and it's saying to begin, add a room or area, to add the Pico control sensors and other devices. And you can see that it kind of talks you through what's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and say get started, and it takes me to this screen. What do you suppose we need to do here?
Start setting up rooms.
Start here.
Yeah.
It walks you right through. So I'm touching rooms and areas. Again, there are tips. So there are tips about how to name it. Now when you're doing a project, you're probably going to have some plans, and what you will have wanted to do with the owner of the space is to sit down and what do they want to call things, because again, when you hand off that project, you want it to be completely clear to them, right, so that they can just rock and roll with it. So you're gonna, that might be president's office, main conference room, secondary conference room, whatever. You're gonna lift that information off of the plans of what you've kind of planned ahead. And it even talks about if you have a large open office to break it into quadrants, and then some other guidelines on that. So I've X'd out of that, and now it says add a room or area. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to, let's stick with our conference room examples from the last video. So I'm going to call this conference room. And now it says, select the type of device you'd like to add to the conference room. A Pico, an occupancy sensor, or a daylight sensor. So let's go ahead and do an occupancy sensor.
Okay.
So I'm going to select that from the app. And it's showing me exactly what it is you're supposed to do. So you're going to press and hold.
Button? No, it's press and hold.
Press and hold, yes, that button, for 10 seconds. And then what this app is doing is the hub is actually going out and looking for lighting loads that are available. Okay, so you can go, oh, that's fine. So finding lights and devices, I'm going to hit continue. Okay, so we've pressed and held that button, and the hub has gone out and looked for lighting load controls that are closest to where we're standing with this. And what we see here are a couple of things that have pulled up. You can see one says Maestro 600 watt wireless dimmer, and it says can't be added. Well, that's this one right here that we'd already associated to that Pico as a standalone.
Right.
There's a way to pull that into the system, which we'll do in a minute. But right now, we're going to look at this other load control, and it's just kind of a bunch of gibberish, right? We've got some letters and numbers there. So how are you supposed to know what that is when you're standing on the floor and these things are installed, up above the ceiling? So we have a flash button on the app that we can push, and now you see that there is a light fixture that's flashing. Well, that's the one, and if that's the one that we want to use, then we can go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and stop, and I'm going to hit the plus sign, and that's what we're going to add into our conference room now.
Okay.
So the system is thinking about that now, and I can continue searching so that I can add other devices, or what I'm going to do is hit next. So you can add more devices to this occupancy sensor. It's not like it can just talk to one lighting load. So if it's like an open office space, you have several different load controls in that space. You can associate each one after the other.
Right.
And that all will be controlled by that occupancy sensor.
Okay.
Okay, so now we want to name this occupancy sensor. You're going to have that opportunity to do this all the way through with every one of the devices that you put in. But for the purposes of time, we're just going to leave it and have it be called occupancy sensor. And it controls one device, and then just to make sure that we're talking about the right device, so this is a system of check and balances. You can flash again, and then I'm going to say done. And the screen that pops up next shows you what all is in that room. So now we have,
and we have our occupancy sensor.
Right. And in this particular scenario, it also says daylighting, because this demo here is actually a POW pack that is created to do an individual fixture. So it will do 1 amp of 0 to 10 volt dimming, and you can have an optional occupancy and daylight sensor that in this demo is wired up already, but we're pretending it's not there. So what I can do now is I can select occupancy, and you can see that it's enabled. So this occupancy sensor is enabled, and it tells you that you are going to set your sensitivity and your timeout from the sensor, and then you can create occupancy groups. And you can also make it you can to where you can choose whether it's occupancy and vacancy. So what that means is when you walk in the space, it senses you're there, it turns the lights on. When no one's there, it senses that the space is unoccupied, turns the lights off. If you
Right.
turned it to vacancy only, you would have to manually turn the lights on when you walk in the space. Commercial
Okay.
code calls for occupancy vacancy, so we'll leave that on there.
So it becomes a manual on, auto off type situation.
If you chose the vacancy only.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we can talk about what the behavior of the lights is. Lights are when the room is occupied. So when occupied, for dimmable lights, we can choose to go ahead and say, you know what, when someone walks in the space, I don't need it to go on to 100%. I'm going to have those lights go on to 75%.
Nice.
So I'm going to say done.
Nice picture.
And then when unoccupied, I want the dimmable lights to be off, but something you can do, say for a hallway or a stairwell application, you can have those lights when someone walks into that space, the lights come up to maybe 60%. And when there's nobody in the space, rather than going completely out, you can have them, you can set them at 15% or something along those lines.
Right.
There are code requirements for that as well for a safety standpoint. But we're in a conference room, we just want the lights to be off when the room is unoccupied. So now I'm going to save that setting, and I am done with that. So I'm going to go back to rooms, and I'm going to go back in that room now, into the conference room, and in my devices and settings, and I'm going to select add device, and this time I'm going to add a Pico remote control. So I'm going to pick up the same Pico that we used when we were doing standalone programming.
Right.
And again, it's programming for dummies, right? Like it shows you exactly what to do. There's all kinds of different Pico remotes. So, well, my Pico doesn't look like that. Does it look like this? Yes, but honestly, it's always press the bottom button. So I'm going to press and hold. And again, it's doing the same thing. The hub is looking for lighting load controls that are closest to where I'm standing with this Pico. So it has found the fixture that we have already put in there, which we forgot to name it something, but I want to actually add this fixture that we had this Pico associated with. So I had it search again. And now you see, again, it says Maestro 600 wireless dimmer, but this one it says not added to the hub. So I can, and it wouldn't let me add it before, but now that I'm using the Pico that's associated with it, now it's letting me add both the Pico and this load control into the system. So I'm going to hit add. So I'm going to hit next. So typically when you're adding your load controls, it wants you to tell it what the wattage is that load control is controlling. This one right here, this individual fixture control, has a CT in it, so it automatically calculates how many watts it's controlling. But this one here, so say we have 5 lights that it's controlling that are each 20 watts.
Okay.
This isn't going to just know that, so we have to put this in to our app. And the reason we want that is because later on the building owner can look at their app and see how much energy they're saving at any given time. So if it's 5 loads at 20 watts each, we've got 100 and done. And again, I could flash it to show that which fixture we're talking about. And then I can name the Pico remote. And then I can go back and I can add this load control to that occupancy sensor, and so you can see,
So it's still
it just
controlled.
goes on.
Now it's controlled by the hub, and
Correct.
it's controlled by my Pico remote.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So now I'm going to hit done, and there's a lot more features, obviously, right? So we're not going to be able to cover all of those right now. There are lots of in and outs. I can set an occupancy sensor to be deactivated during business hours so that the lights don't go out, but as soon as the schedule turns all the lights off at the end of the business day, Now the occupancy sensors are functioning. For that person who's working late, burning the midnight oil in the back office, all of the rest of the lights have turned off automatically because it's end of business day. Now they walk out of their office at 10 o'clock at night, and you don't want them stumbling through the dark to get out of the building. Well, the occupancy sensors will see that they're there, light the way for their safety, and then turn the lights off automatically after that space is vacated. So again, I can do some other fine-tuning things. But what I'm going to do is go back to my main screen. So right now we're saving 100 watts worth of energy because this light fixture isn't on. But if I wanted to turn that on, and I've turned it all the way on, we're saving just a little bit of energy there. And then as I dim it down, the energy savings begins to show up in the app.
Great.
So now I'm going to go to schedules. And again, it's walking us through a new thing that we haven't done in this app yet. So I'm going to tap plus to add an event. And I'm going to say, we're going to name the event, and we're going to say, I don't know, shop open. And hit next. Now, which days of the week do we want to have the shop open?
Probably Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. And then you can tap to exclude holidays or other dates from this event. So you can go in and you can fine tune that.
Set up the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we want this to start today and go on till forever, right? Because you're going to be going strong. So we can choose the days weekly or by dates. But we're going to go next, and now we're going to say, what time do we want the shop to open? When does somebody
6
get
a.m.
here? 6 a.m. Okay, so we've got 6 a.m. Another option is to set it by sunrise or sunset. But we're going to say 6 a.m. and we'll say next. And now, if we're done a whole building, we're going to have a whole list of rooms here, right? But for the purposes of this, we've got conference room, so we're going to say next. And what we want to do, so this event is going to control the lights. It's going to turn them on or off or dim them. And then what I talked about before, we can modify the occupancy settings in there. Now in a conference room, you'd probably want to leave that occupancy sensor activated during the day. It's not a space that people would be in and out of all the time. So we won't do that this time around. So I'm going to say next. And I'm going to say that I want my dimmable lights to go to 50% when we open up here. So it's some light, a good amount of light, but we don't need to have the lights on full, right? Then when somebody walks in this space, they can go over to the wall and put the light up to a more comfortable level. And then I'm going to say save. And then we can go into the holidays like we talked about and make exceptions. And you can manually adjust the settings. But that's just a really quick high overview.
Great.
And then each one of the events that will happen in a day will show up at the bottom of that screen. So then you would create another event for closing, and it's really just that simple.
That's awesome. No, I can see that's going to be a great way to get especially a retrofitted office building or commercial site Title 24 compliant. Without breaking the bank, really.
Yes, yeah. And again, scalable. So maybe you started out with one small office, but now you're going to do the rest of the building, so you add your hub. You can see how we pulled in the device that had already been programmed standalone. There are 3 different versions of this hub, and they all exist within one hub.
Okay.
So a basic hub is able to control 70 to 75 devices. If you needed to control more, you can pay a little bit of an upgrade fee to unlock to be able to control up to 700. So the beauty here is that, again, scalable. You can start small, you can build up and grow. And if you need BACnet ability, then there would be an upgrade fee to unlock the BACnet capability. But why pay for it if you don't need it?
Right. Sounds like it would be able to handle most applications right out of the box.
Yes.
And maybe in a huge facility, it might be worth upgrading to that first step
Right.
to go to 700 devices.
Right. And you know, we also provide support with this if you need help with layouts of your plan. There is also, you can have somebody come out and do your programming for you, or you can do your programming on your own. Smaller spaces, pretty simple. If it's a larger building that's more complicated, you might want to have a tech come out and help with that. But again, scalable in that way as well.
Great. Well, I want to thank you, Linda, for coming out and showing us how to use Lutron's Vive product. And I want to thank Edges Electric for setting this demonstration up.
Thanks, Edges.
And I think we learned a lot today and over the last couple episodes, and I just want to thank you, the viewer who's watching. If you like these videos, continue to hit subscribe, continue to hit the like button, and we'll catch you in the next video. Have a great day.
Thank you.